Hello and welcome to the Geeks Talk Back Podcast. I'm Sean. Over there is Chris.
Hello.
You're listening to the Geeks Talk Back Podcast. I'm your co-host Sean, and each week Chris and I will put our own nerdy spin on topics ranging from movies to toys to video games, whatever strikes our fancy. If you like us, please subscribe on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at Geeks Talk Back or visit us on geekstalkback.com and be sure to like us on Facebook. You can also find episodes on our YouTube channel, the Geeks Talk Back Podcast. When it comes to podcasts, we know you have choices, and thank you for flying Geeks Talk Back.
By the power of Grayskull, we're sending you back to the future! Go! Okay, man, let's turn and burn.
Force is strong in this one.
The plaque for the alternates is down in the ladies' room.
Welcome back to the Geeks Talk Back Podcast. If you're a new listener, welcome. If you're joining us again, well, we're surprised. This is episode 5, which is our second episode. On today's show, we will discuss Jar Jar Binks' Sith Master, as well as count down our top 10 favorite TV and movie vehicles. And now, on with the show. Okay, welcome to this week's episode of the Geeks Talk Back Podcast. This is episode 5, also known as number 2. And in this week's episode, we're taking a bit of a departure because we made a big deal last week about not counting the prequels as legitimate Star Wars.
We did.
And, which I still don't.
Yeah.
But I came across a video, or you sent me the video, I think.
I think we both found it mutually.
About the theory that Jar Jar Binks is actually a Sith Master.
Ooh. Dun dun dun.
Which was kind of hard to swallow at face value because I deeply, deeply despise Jar Jar Binks.
I think you and 90% of the Star Wars fan base wants to kill Jar Jar Binks.
Right. And when I first saw that, I thought it was just a BS video. Then I watched it, and some pretty compelling arguments were made.
Very compelling.
Which, probably because I don't take them seriously, maybe why they're so easily believed or accepted or considered.
Because you're hoping there's an ulterior motive to the crappiness that is Jar Jar.
Something like that, right. What I thought we'd do today, play the video and listen along, and then we'll pause it and discuss the different points.
That works for me.
Okay. So here is the video, and there's a link in our show notes, as well as our Twitter feed for the video.
You may have heard already about the theory that's blowing up around the internet right now about how Jar Jar Binks may actually be a Sith Master. So I decided to make this video to explain every single detail for you. So here it is. This is the completely airtight, absolutely foolproof case for why Jar Jar Binks is the most powerful Sith Master in the universe. First of all, Jar Jar executes a 20-foot twisting somersault through the air that, if performed by any other character, you would assume they were either a Jedi or a Sith.
Now, with that one, we never saw any of the other Gungans actually do the flips, so we don't know if that's a normal Gungan behavior or not.
Well, and the Gungans, again, it's been a while since I've seen any one of the prequels, but during that battle scene, they showed some agility beyond what you would consider a normal warrior. Just the way, now granted they're all CGI, but that they all kind of moved the same way.
Right.
And they all didn't move like a normal human would. So just because you see him do that, whatever half gainer into the water,
the triple Indy
half gainer with a kick flip into the water, and then I know we're doing it on audio and we're just listening to it, but we watched the video previous to this preparing, and there's no really depth. You can't see exactly how far he's jumping.
Right.
Because of the angle of the shot and whatnot. But he does. I mean, he definitely shows some agility, some physical prowess, if you would. But again, referring to what I recall from the battle scene, that I don't necessarily think that could be just limited to him. That could be a Gungan thing.
That's possible.
So that point, I see what he's saying, because if we saw any of the other characters do that, then yeah, they're definitely a Jedi.
Well, yeah, and then in the cutscenes, he used to support his theory.
Correct.
They showed, Darth Maul doing his flips and the Jedi flips and everything.
Yeah, and was it Obi-Wan pulling himself up and grabbing the lightsaber after Darth Maul had killed Qui-Gon. I almost say Kylo Ren, but that's because we were talking about him earlier. So there is some supporting. I can see where he's coming from, but that's not a definitive. It's not like,
No.
They just didn't show any other
Right.
of the Gungans in action like that.
Okay. Continuing on.
As we know, the Jedi themselves are inspired by Shaolin monks, and a convincing theory is that Jar Jar is based off of another traditional martial arts discipline called Zi-Quan. Jar Jar almost single-handedly takes out half a droid army using moves clearly taught in Zi-Quan. Zi-Quan, or Drunken Fist, uses stumbling and staggering as body momentum to be deceptive, unpredictable, and to confuse opponents. And Jar Jar mysteriously is extremely efficient in killing every single time that he is in danger. And as Obi-Wan told us, there is no such thing as luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
In another scene, Jar Jar seems to fall from a bridge, although we have seen this done on purpose before by Jedi. And Jar Jar also falls in a completely different place than where he was dangling from. We can prove this because droids can be seen shooting at his original location, and their heads even follow him jump to the other side. Jar Jar...
I'm going to call the bridge part just bad editing.
I'll take 2 steps back to the Drunken Fist. That's convincing. I've seen videos of masters in the drunken arts, and they look and act, and they put that whole, it's not just I'm staggering around, but they slur their words. They appear as if they are drunk, and then the next thing you know, you're on the ground twisted up in a pretzel because this guy did some crazy drunk fish shit on you. That's a really, really good point, and there's a lot of different fighting techniques that are used by different Jedi. The different, what we would call forms of lightsaber, or not just the lightsaber themselves, but the forms that they use. Even getting into the extended universe stuff, they have names for different types of lightsaber fighting.
Right.
Some of them are more of a fast, light attack. Some of them are more defensive. Some are more of a heavy attack. And then if you get way into the extended universe with some of the different lightsabers, a single blade lightsaber versus somebody who dual wields 2 lightsabers versus like Darth Maul with his staff. I mean, I've seen, in the extended universe, some of the lightsabers are just, there's like basically a chain or a whip lightsaber, so it's very well possible.
So the fact that they made him so adept at the Drunken Fist style may have been foreshadowing.
And maybe, one of the things that the Sith are known for is deception. And he didn't just fight that way, he lived that way. Everything that came out of his mouth made him appear as a bumbling, stumbling idiot.
Right.
And even when there's a scene and I believe it's in the video, where the guy refers to Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are in the submarine thing with him, and he says, they were asking him why he got exiled from the Gungans, and he said because he's clumsy. Right. Because he's clumsy. I mean, if he's a Sith, he's already dedicated his life to his master. Mm-hmm. He doesn't give a shit about the Gungan people. Right. So for them to exile him, because that's deception 101, and he's a badass for it. As far as the camera angle,
I wouldn't call him a badass.
Wow. If this is in fact what actually happened, and we all hate him because he's an idiot, right? I mean, I got to give props to Lucas on that, because that's the biggest rope-a-dope in Star Wars history. So as far as that angle for the camera, I can see what they're saying, but there's not enough to support it, because the angle they cut to is underneath the bridge, and you can't see to the right.
Yeah, and I think it was just continuity error.
It could have been a continuity error. It could have just been bad editing, a bad cut.
Yeah.
could have used a force jump, as we've seen multiple times before by Jedi. Jar Jar is also seen using sleight of hand movements and Jedi mind tricks during key plot points to influence the plot and change people's minds. He even uses them when he is promoted to general, when he's promoted to senator, and while he's persuading an entire galactic senate. Along with using the Force via sleight of hand, Jar Jar is also seen in multiple scenes using Jedi mind control to influence what people say, therefore changing the outcome of important events.
The Queen wishes it. She's curious about the planet.
Well, I don't know.
Jar Jar's own species are...
Now, in the previous uses of the Jedi mind trick, they always made a big deal out of it, and it was very, very obvious. And when they're showing his hand movements and all that, if you didn't actually stop and look for that, you wouldn't even notice it.
And I agree, because a lot of the scenes with Jar Jar, he is very animated.
Mm-hmm.
He almost he's like Italian. He talks with his hands.
Right.
He's very flamboyant. He's moving his hands up and down. His ears are going and all that crap. That again, if I could totally see that being the entire, that's part of the deception. He's moving his hands so you don't suspect he's doing it. But then when they zoom in on his mouth in multiple scenes, you can see his lips moving. And it wasn't like it was one bad cut where the CG, for whatever reason, his lips started moving. It was very pronounced in multiple scenes throughout those movies, not only throughout 1, 2, and 3.
So what's your point right there, then?
My point is, I almost agree that could be a good point.
So you're saying that it may have been the Jedi mind trick?
Based on the video with them showing multiple scenes, I think that was the Jedi mind trick, and he was influencing or attempting to influence people. Because even if you notice when Padme's, is it his general or his chief of security, when he actually says the Queen wishes it, the way he says it is different. If you really pay attention, the tone in his voice is very like, these are not the droids we're looking for. The change in the tone, the way he said it is very robotic, as if he was being told to say it.
Okay.
That could be me reading into it, but like I said, with the cuts that they show on multiple levels of his lips moving, and then the people saying something immediately afterwards, I'm convinced on that point.
Okay, fair enough.
Deathly afraid of him. Seems like less of a reaction to seeing the village idiot and more of a reaction to seeing somebody that you should be very afraid of. Jar Jar mocks Qui-Gon's ability to use the Force, perhaps because Qui-Gon's Force abilities pale in comparison of his own.
The Force will guide us.
Oh, Maxie bit the Force.
If you were wondering why a Sith Master would act like an idiot like Jar Jar does, it's clear that he is just fooling the Jedi so he can manipulate them into trusting him.
You hear that?
Yeah?
And again, back to the whole deception thing.
But, yeah, the deception thing is a big deal. He does mock him. The problem that I have about the statement with his people are afraid of him, nobody showed, in my opinion, fear.
Right.
It wasn't oh my god, it's Jar Jar, let's go run and hide. It was, get me the hell away from this guy.
Sure.
But that could be part of the deception. But I never got the feeling that they were afraid of him. Especially the guy, I don't remember what the name is. The guy, like the main warrior, not the chief of the Gungans, but his like number one warrior guy.
Okay. When
Jar Jar and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan come back to the Gungan village, he basically confronts them. I don't see fear. Like, the way he was basically challenging him, like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Right.
That was not fear.
No.
So it was more of a, hey, you're not supposed to be here. What's up? So that point doesn't have a lot of weight with me.
No. Well, not only that, it wasn't. If his whole thing was deception, then they shouldn't fear him.
Correct, but the way
unless they know something.
Correct, and the way the video is trying to portray it is that they were actually afraid of him.
Right. No, and I agree with you.
I don't think it was fear. I think it was, if anything, it was, this guy's a bumbling, stumbling idiot. Give me the way from him so I don't get hurt.
Right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
In the fact that we don't agree with the video.
Okay.
So we're on the same page.
We're here.
Okay.
All right.
And just to further that one more, if they were in fear of him, wouldn't they be afraid to exclude him from their village? Or
that is a good point too. Like, I'm so afraid of his power that why would you do something to exile him or to piss him off if you were afraid?
Exactly.
Of him? Yeah.
Exactly.
Clumsy.
You were banished because you were clumsy.
He even pretends to be scared in a deleted scene where his ship is going to fall over a waterfall, even though he can jump 20 feet through the air and he can swim and breathe underwater. Jar Jar also mocks Qui-Gon behind his back and in front of Anakin, teaching Anakin early to disrespect Jedi authority. Jar Jar tells Anakin, an 8-year-old boy, that Padme is hot, fanning the flames for Anakin's infatuation for Padme that is exploited later.
Pity hot.
That's kind of a good point, too.
Yeah.
Well, it has happened, yeah, but they'll mention in a moment about him being the one that broke the hyperdrive and forced him to land on Tatooine where Anakin was. So almost putting him in the path of Anakin. And then at the same time, if he knew what Anakin's potential was to actually undermine the Jedi to Anakin, almost planting the seed.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that I don't think they realized because Qui-Gon didn't even realize Anakin's potential until a good while into the movie.
Sure.
So how would, and there's no reference from Palpatine prior to almost the end of the movie, where after the events, the way the movie's cut and the way the movie portrays itself is that Palpatine basically doesn't see the potential of Anakin until the end of the movie. He even makes a comment, "We'll be keeping our eye on you," or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically like the closing scene of Episode 1.
Okay.
So if Yoda and Samuel L. Jackson's character,
Mace
Windu, if they couldn't sense it, how did the Sith know that this guy was special?
I don't know.
It's kind of because, and again, I'm under the assumption that the Force, basically, you have two sides that have equal quote-unquote power.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how. They'd have to come up with something really convincing more than this to make me believe that, Palpatine and Jar Jar already knew that Anakin was the shit or part of their plan and start planting those seeds that early on.
Well, they didn't know at all about Anakin until Qui-Gon brought Anakin to them.
Correct. So how did Palpatine know if the Jedi Council didn't know?
I don't know.
That's, again, it's kind of they'd have to come up with something really convincing to say how. I mean, even if they said, well, Palpatine, is this, and this, and this, and he's like, one step away from God and has, 10 times the power of Yoda with the Force, okay, but nothing has been said that makes Palpatine any more powerful than some of the Jedi Council.
Yeah, I don't know.
Other than that, I mean, when they're talking about the scene when he's trying to jump off their boat or whatever that's about to go on the cliff, I can see, yes, he was playing deception. He knew that I'm going to be okay, and I'm playing into that more. Hey, I can make a 20-foot jump with no problem. Oh, that's right, I come from an underwater world, so I shouldn't really be afraid of water. But at the same time, this could also play into the whole, he's a bumbling, stumbling idiot for real, and freaked out under pressure.
Or is it also possible that since that was a deleted scene, someone brought it up, hey, he can swim and everything else?
It could be. It could be they again, you're right, it is a deleted scene.
That's why it's gone.
And it could be we cut this for that dramatic effect, oh yeah, wait, somebody's going to call us on the carpet because he breathes underwater, he's from water. He's not afraid of water. And then they get into the whole, basically Jar Jar talking shit. He does. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of times where he's very disrespectful or just downright a jackass.
Yeah,
well, and every single time it's in front of Anakin.
Yeah, I mean, they more or less kind of saved his ass with his own people, and he thanks them by talking shit.
Yeah. So, and he does make the one comment, oh, Padme's hot, or whatever. So, but that they could have done that for comedy relief, more than anything. I don't think there's enough. There's not enough convincing as far as the whole Padme is concerned. There is a couple of times where he is basically talking shit behind their backs in front of Anakin and kind of plants that, rebellious seed.
Well, yeah, and it undermines him to, kind of sway him toward the dark side.
Very well could be.
Jar Jar also talks to and is very interested in Padme, even before it is revealed that Padme is the real queen. Jar Jar also influences Padme's decision-making when she's at her most uncertain.
We got a grand army.
I've decided to go back to Naboo.
Jar Jar senses that the Jedi are coming without any warnings. He could not have known in any way that they were coming, and he even walks up to the elevator seconds before the Jedi arrive, then pretends to be surprised to see them.
Interesting point.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, or is it a bad cut?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything to it, but...
Yeah. Well, and that's one of my... This is showing my lack of knowledge, but in multiple scenes that I recall, Jedi can sense other Jedi. They can sense the power of the Force.
Right.
But then some of them, Sith mainly, i.e. Palpatine, have the ability to mask their Force powers.
Okay.
So how would he be able to sense the Jedi coming without the Jedi sensing him? I don't know if that's how the Force works.
So it's kind of like the submarines.
Submarine.
One ping only.
Yeah, one ping only. That way they know I'm here, and I just screwed myself, but I know where they are. So I don't know if it works quite that way, but I know, there's, in I believe it's Jedi, Return of the Jedi, Luke even says, my father's on that ship. Mm-hmm. How do you know? I can feel him.
Yeah.
So, but then again, you have this whole...
But was it a Jedi thing or a father-son thing?
Yeah, and that's, like the whole... Through 1, 2, and 3, Palpatine is able to mask the fact that you would think that this all, powerful being would at some point in time have been sensed by another Jedi, but he has the ability to mask it. So, I don't know. It's interesting.
When they're escaping Naboo, Jar Jar is the one who sabotages the hyperdrive, which forces them to land on Tatooine in the first place where they meet Anakin. Not to mention Jar Jar is the reason they keep running into Anakin. Jar Jar is seen suspiciously fiddling around in the back of the ship moments before the hyperdrive mysteriously breaks. R2-D2 even notices he was doing something suspicious, so he gives him a well-deserved smack before he is forced to leave in the elevator to fix the ship's shield generator.
So, for some reason, he messes with the hyperdrive, which forces him to land on the one planet where the future of the Force lives.
Yeah.
Who has no real explanation of how he even came to be. That his, the Immaculate Conception with Shmi Skywalker, all of a sudden Anakin is born. So, of all the planets in all the world, end up on the one planet, and Qui-Gon Jinn ends up finding Anakin.
Yeah, but looking at that cut from the video, there's nothing that shows him messing. He's stumbling around, looking around, but we don't actually see him fidgeting with anything, and we don't know where in the ship he is.
No, but
there's nothing in that room other than the droids that lets you see, oh, hey, this is the hyperdrive.
Yeah, well, but still, the ship is going fine. He's messed with something. Now the ship's broken.
Okay. Now, I don't recall, again, it's been a while since I've seen it, but why did the shields go down, and why were the droids going out to fix the shield generator?
I couldn't tell you.
So that's why that would lead me to believe if the shield generator went down, were they in a battle? And if so, if they were already in a fight, a ship fight prior to that, the shield generator went down, there's a very good reason why your hyperdrive was damaged as well. But I don't recall. Again, it's been a while since I've watched episode 1, so I don't know what. I don't know. It's not convincing enough. Yes, you do see R2 give him a bump, but he's in the fucking way. It's like, move, bitch, get out of my way. I got shit to do.
I don't know, but
not convincing enough for me.
Well, no, I don't think any one point.
No, it's not.
In this whole thing. I mean, we can pick apart the entire thing. Yeah. How it's all.
But
bullshit.
again, like I said earlier, you could also, based on the cuts, make anything true.
Well, right. And then if you want to believe it, you're going to see what you want to see to make your belief happen. True.
In fact, every droid Jar Jar encounters seems to hate him and find him suspicious, and for good reason, because Jar Jar's mind control doesn't work on droids.
You know, I find that Jar Jar creature to be a little odd. Quite right. He's very odd indeed.
Only odd is not hatred.
So why did George Lucas create this devious Gungan character? Well, here's George Lucas talking about Yoda in a documentary. Yoda really comes from a tradition in mythological storytelling where the hero finds a creature on the side of the road that seems very insignificant and not very important, but who turns out to be the master wizard. And as we know, Lucas's big deal with the prequels was that they were supposed to rhyme and mirror the original trilogy in terms of narrative themes. So there should be a seemingly innocent creature found at the side of the road that later reveals himself to be the master wizard in the prequels. Don't forget, Yoda was also strangely annoying and dumb until he was revealed to be the most powerful Jedi in the universe.
R2!
So Jar Jar was supposed to reveal himself as the most powerful Sith in the universe, and Yoda was supposed to duel with his literal dark side nemesis and mythological equivalent at the end of Attack of the Clones. Not the meaningless, boring, human Count Dooku who is randomly and hastily written in to cover plot holes when Lucas chickened out and decided not to reveal Jar Jar's powers because of the horrible backlash by the Star Wars community. Lucas even said Jar Jar is the key to all of this.
Jar Jar is the key to all this.
Okay, the guy who made the video, I'll take his word for it, because I don't know what the plan was. I don't know what the rewrites were. I got no idea. But one little blurb that Jar Jar was the key to all of this, it's completely out of context.
Very out of context. I don't know where that cut was even come from.
Exactly.
Here's the thing. That the issue that I have with that point. Jar Jar, like I said before, is the most loathed character in the Star Wars franchise.
Right.
There is, like I said, I would venture to guess 90 to 99% of all Star Wars fans, from the guy who's seen it once or twice to the mega geeks like us, hate Jar Jar. Why? I guarantee that if at the end of Attack of the Clones, or somewhere in episode 3 or 3, they come out with a episode 3.5, and they reveal Jar Jar to be a Sith Lord, that is going to change everybody's perspective on episodes 1 through 3.
Well, I would agree to a point. If they had done more character development for Jar Jar, if they had really, shown how he, or revealed more and more of his Sith abilities, because right now you have Jar Jar the moron, and then like that you're going to have Jar Jar the Sith Master. That'd be too hard to swallow.
Correct, but he brings up a good point. But basically, what I'm trying to say is why would you pull out of the whole fight between? And again, I know you don't like it because you don't even like the posters showing Yoda with a lightsaber. But the battle between Yoda and Count Dooku is badass, in my opinion. I love that fight scene. It shows basically, you know, them duking it out with their force powers. And then they're, you know, Count Dooku's like, okay, we're obviously not going to win this with force powers because we're basically equals, and let's see how you basically roll a lightsaber. And they get down to town, and then Dooku runs like a little bitch.
Right.
But you see Yoda, you know, again, it's very, I agree with this whole, how the previous point about how Yoda was portrayed as very similar to Jar Jar. And in fact, in the opening shots of the fight with Count Dooku, you see Yoda walking up with his cane, flips open his robe, does the force trick, and then just goes like fucking, you know, come at you like a spider monkey hopped up on Mountain Dew. I'm gonna scissor kick you in the back of the head. So you compare, you add that shot in with Jar Jar rolling in, and basically all of a sudden he pulls out a lightsaber from God knows where, and basically starts getting down to Chinatown with Yoda, and they go blow for blow. That basically, that is going to completely change. Everybody at that moment is going to be like, holy shit, Jar Jar's a Sith Lord, and the whole thing prior to that is a ruse. Now, the problem that I have with that is if that would basically make that whole theory right there. If they would have done it, I don't see why Lucas or anybody at Lucasfilm would take that away just because people didn't like Jar Jar. Because if you did that, that's your redeeming shot.
Right, but it wasn't just a little, oh, you know, that guy sucks sort of thing.
No.
I mean, everyone hated Jar Jar Binks.
Correct. But why? But like I'm saying, my point is,
well, and not only that, and just to get on the whole PC angle of it, there was huge, blurbs about how it was racist because they made Jar Jar black, which he's an alien, but they're trying to say that
they make him with a Jamaican.
I don't know, because I never even crossed my mind that, well, George Lucas is making fun of black people.
He's an alien.
Exactly.
Okay.
But, well, it's the same as the Transformers with the twins, Skids and Mudflap. They're saying the same thing, that they gave them those ghetto accents, that they were being racist. So it may have been pressured from the PC angle that, you know what, I think let's ban the whole Jar Jar thing, because Jar Jar in episodes 2 and 3 had very, very few lines.
Correct.
And he was no longer the stumbling idiot.
Correct. But and again, my point is that if they would have shown Jar Jar as opposed to Count Dooku in the battle with Yoda, that would have made, even me, okay, I see what you did there. Good job, Lucas. We don't hate Jar Jar. That was a badass move.
Yeah, that would make me not hate Jar Jar.
Yes.
But I don't know if that would save the prequels for me.
No, it probably wouldn't. But
it would score a few points.
It would definitely score points, but then it kind of kills the rest of the plot where Jar Jar takes Padme's place in the council, and then he's able to give Palpatine total control.
Right.
So you can't. I don't know. Maybe if it was a weird cut, maybe that wasn't supposed to be there until after the fact.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's good stuff.
If we get Jar Jar working.
Also, the actor who played Jar Jar even tweeted, "I will say this, it feels good when the hidden meaning behind the work is seen, no matter how long it takes. Hashtag the Phantom Menace." Not only is Jar Jar a Sith, but it's very possible that he may not just be working with Palpatine, but possibly the Sith Master above Palpatine, and Palpatine is really the apprentice and pawn of Jar Jar. You may not have noticed, but Jar Jar follows Palpatine everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Even after Qui-Gon's funeral, seconds after Yoda explains how there's always two Siths, a Sith Master and an apprentice, Jar Jar is seen standing right beside Palpatine before he's even supposed to know who Palpatine is. Not to mention that Jar Jar and Palpatine are from the same planet. Out of the millions of planets in the galaxy, Jar Jar and Palpatine both are from Naboo. Jar Jar even convinces Padme to promote him to senator. And Jar Jar is the one who convinces the entire Galactic Senate to abandon democracy and give Emperor Palpatine full control. If it wasn't for Jar Jar, Palpatine would have never risen to power in the first place. The actor who voiced Jar Jar even explains a deleted scene where Palpatine and Jar Jar walk in secret and Palpatine thanks Jar Jar for putting him in power. He also says that George Lucas made big changes in the prequels because of backlash.
Thoughts?
The problem is I've never seen, and they've never ever alluded to the ability of a Sith or Jedi to control an entire, maybe 1,000 people council.
All at one time.
All at one time. The other issue I have is that we are talking various race. I mean, there's literally 3 people from every planet.
Right.
And we've already been shown that the Jedi mind tricks don't work on everybody.
Right.
The guy, the slaver that sold Anakin.
Watto.
Watto. It doesn't work on him.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know, and there was an overwhelming...
Well, it never said that every single person or every single being in the Senate voted to put Palpatine in. It never said it was a unanimous decision.
Yeah, but looking at the reaction, there was nobody against it. They never showed anybody against it.
Well, it's the same as the UN. I mean, if you have a UN vote, if Japan, the United States, and Great Britain all vote one way,
mm-hmm.
is Brazil going to vote against them? Or if they're opposed, are they going to say anything about it?
That's true. You get the major powers, and they're like,
exactly.
Okay, I ain't going to say shit. I'll go ahead and vote. Okay. As far as making changes, again, we're pretty convinced that George Lucas is a bitch because of episode 1, 2, and 3 at this point. But movies get changed all the time. This isn't anything new. I don't see if you wrote... And movies get rewrites. They get this, they get that. There's no way to know. And just because the actor who played a character tweeted something...
Exactly.
That doesn't mean shit.
No, not at all.
Because in my opinion, at this point in time, we're so far past any NDA that anybody would have been under, and for those of you, non-disclosure agreement, anybody who worked,
mm-hmm.
any of the writers, at this point in time, would have written a book, and something would have come out at this point. Not 2 weeks before episode 7 comes out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not...
Right.
We're like, what, 13 years past? When did 1, 2, and 3 come out? 2002, 2004?
I think 1 came out in 99.
Yeah. So we're a good 15 years, 10 to 15 years past,
mm-hmm.
and nothing has come out about this prior to
right.
that I've ever heard of. How about you?
No.
So...
And this video, I know how this video is. I didn't see how old it was, but
it appears relatively new.
It's brand new to me.
Yeah, and another thing that I have an issue with is he even references there's always 2 Sith, 1 master, 1 apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
When they're talking, there would have been 3. There would have been Jar Jar somewhere in the mix, either above or below.
Right.
Palpatine and Darth Maul. That's 3.
Yeah,
that ain't 2.
And Dooku.
And Dooku, which, so I mean, there's some serious plot holes in this whole thing.
Right.
Now, Count Dooku comes in after Darth Maul has been killed, because Darth Maul is killed at the end of episode 1.
Right, but Dooku's already pretty far advanced.
But Dooku was a Jedi that was turned.
That's true.
Because there's even a camaraderie between Dooku and Yoda and Dooku and...
Oh, yeah.
Is there... for some reason, I want to recall some type of confrontation between Dooku and Mace Windu, but I don't think there is. That's with Palpatine later.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Okay. But there's definitely a knowledge. Everybody knows who Count Dooku is.
Yeah.
So obviously he had some, Jedi clout, as it were.
Right.
So... There's no and that battle is somewhere in episode 2. So there's no definitive. I mean, and again, you go from the end of episode 1 where Anakin's like 8 or 9 years old to episode 2 where he's in his conceivably late teens.
Yeah,
I think we're almost done with that audio.
Yeah, I think we're kind of beating a dead horse here too.
Also, whenever you think a Sith is the Master, you always find out later on that there was always somebody controlling the Sith. You think Darth Vader is the Sith Master, and then it's revealed that Darth Sidious is actually the Sith Master. You think Darth Maul is it, but then it's revealed that Palpatine was actually the mastermind. Even Padme had a decoy.
That's incorrect, because they show the hologram of Palpatine talking, and then he introduces Darth Maul.
Correct.
So you don't think Darth Maul is it?
Is it? Okay, I'm having a total brain fart. Palpatine is Darth Sidious, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I thought so. Because you just referred to him as two different people. But yeah, no, you see Palpatine with the hood on and the whole thing, and then you get introduced to Darth Maul. And I think they just tried to pull that with the whole horny thing and hornza.
Right, I got it.
So it was more of a, oh shit, this is a badass.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that at all.
Yeah.
A queen, and Padme just pretended to be her servant just in case there was an assassination attempt on the queen. Sound familiar?
That's kind of a random
So
statement.
from this we can conclude that the one behind the scenes that was controlling everything, the real Phantom Menace, the real Sith Master, was Jar Jar Binks all along.
Okay, that's the end of it. Now, as much as I really want that to be true, just because there has to be something that redeems Jar Jar Binks,
I agree.
And in turn, Lucas as well would be something like that. And again, unless it comes from Lucas himself,
again, here's my problem.
It's also too late.
It's too late. You've already, episode 4, 5, and 6 kind of wrap up some of that stuff. There's no place, unless you come out with an episode 3.5 or an offshoot Jar Jar Binks movie after the fact.
Please no.
That you can wrap this up. I don't know if you had that ace up your sleeve. It's worth a shot to throw it out there and see how it floats in the wind than to take the backlash that Lucas got over Jar Jar Binks. I think that would have...
Yeah, but at this point, it might look like him trying to cover his own ass.
It very well could be. But why? But I don't understand. If that was your plan from day one, shooting episode 1, 2, and 3, why you would hold on to that? You basically... That's an ace up the sleeve that would have won you the hand of...
Yeah, but if you wrote a story... So you wrote a story, and then I was straight up bash your... not your main character, but one of your characters. Just totally straight up bashed him. Like, this guy is a piece of shit. I don't know what the hell you were thinking. This is horrible. And you're able to tell the story, take a different avenue. It'd be easier just to take the easy way out and rewrite the story than it would be to, dig your heels in and try to defend that character.
But again, if I knew from the beginning that this is where I wanted to take Jar Jar, and I never revealed it...
Right.
How would you ever know whether or not that would have been the redeeming quality? I would have taken a shot on that.
But it's also possible that the hatred is so deep that no matter how you try to redeem that character, it's not going to fly.
Basically, you're saying Lucas bitched out.
Yeah. He took the easy way out in retelling or telling the story by going a different way. Because if everyone hated him in episode 1, who's to say that they wouldn't hate him even more episode 2 and then episode 3? So you might be spinning out of control.
I hate episode 1. I have no, in my opinion, episode 1 has no place in Star Wars canon. 2 and 3, I don't have as much issues with.
Well, I still do.
Well, you do, but I can watch 2 and 3, and they make, they basically make the origin story of Anakin, i.e. Darth Vader.
Yeah. Well, I guess my underlying problem with the prequels at all is that there's no reason to tell Darth Vader's story. you know that he was Anakin Skywalker because Obi-Wan tells Luke the story of Anakin Skywalker. So basically, once you watch the original trilogy, then you go back and watch the prequels. Basically, all they're saying is, "See."
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is really, I guess, offered by the prequel trilogy.
No, you could live without 1, 2, or 3 and just maintain 3, or 4, 5, and 6.
Exactly. Well, and you know what the ultimate outcome is, which is also the reason why I've never watched Titanic. I know the boat sinks in the end.
The boat sinks.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But
the boat sinks and Jack dies.
Exactly. Jack dies?
Well, yeah. Sorry. Spoilers.
Oh man.
I'll never let you go. Yeah, until he froze to death, and you let him go. Let him sink to the bottom of the ocean.
Right. So there's really no point to me. There's no reason why they even had to show the story of Darth Vader, because you know that he was Anakin Skywalker. You know he became Darth Vader. It's really important to know exactly how it happened. Well, it opens a whole lot more, holes to me. Like when Luke asked Leia in Jedi, "If you remember your mother," she says, "Yeah, I do." Well, she died when she's 2 minutes old, according to the prequels.
Yeah. And
if Luke was, like say, 16, 17, 18 years old in Star Wars, the first one, why did Obi-Wan Kenobi age like 70 years in 18 years?
That is a good point.
And if the whole intention was to hide Luke and Leia from Darth Vader, well, one, he thought his kids were dead.
Yeah.
Why would he look for them? And then the off chance that he would be looking for him, why would Luke still have the same last name?
That is a very good point.
I mean, because if I'm going to take you and hide you somewhere from your dad,
you're going to change my last name.
Your name is Chris Johnson now. So I mean, I think far more questions were raised than actually answered in the prequels, and that's aside from the point of there's no reason for it because you know the backstory already. The questions that come up because of the prequels.
Well, and that's at some point in time, that's one of the issues where that you're going to run into. I don't care what story you're writing, when you, for whatever reason, write episode, or you write a script or a book, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to take the middle 3 chapters, and I'm going to turn each one of these into a movie, and they were hits, absolute hits. Billions of dollars have probably been spent on Star Wars memorabilia, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Then you, 30 years later, say, or 20 years later, I guess, when the prequels came out, yeah, let's see if we can still milk this cash cow. And I'm going to throw this crap in here. And then you have different writers, you have different technologies, you completely change the look of the movie. You can't do that right. There's no way.
Well, no, not to mention that there's plenty of expanded universe.
Yeah.
Directions it could have gone. Didn't have to be the original story.
No, I don't know. It's a very convincing video. It's got its holes.
Right. Okay, final summary. I think the video, for me, it gives me hope that there was more to Jar Jar than was led on.
I hope so.
Now, enough to say that, yeah, Jar Jar was definitely a Sith Master? No. But it sounds like that Jar Jar was left basically mid-developed, character-wise.
I agree. And it's one of those... The problem, what we run into is there is no continuity between Episode 3 with Jar Jar, or Episode 3 to Episode 4. It's, okay, what the fuck happened to Jar Jar? Now, and I just thought of something, actually. He says Jar Jar is the key on that quote from Lucas.
Was the key to all this?
Was the key to all this.
If we can get him working.
If we can get him working, I think, he's talking about the CGI.
That could be.
Because in the late 90s, early 2000s, CGI was still being developed. I agree with you. It's plausible. I hope there's more to Jar Jar. It sheds a little light. Let's face the facts. We'll never know.
Okay, just in interest of brevity, Mythbuster style. Confirmed busted or plausible?
I'm going plausible.
Fair enough. All right, moving on. Okay, now for the closing part of our show today. Last week we we came up with our top 10 TV and movie vehicles.
That's this week. Last week we did
no
trivia question.
Over the last week, we came up with it.
Yes.
So go ahead, Chris. You want to start?
Okay, I'll start. We did it. We were basically doing top 10 movie/TV vehicles. Some live action. I did some cartoon. I can't really do a number 1 through 10. I can't rank them. I kind of have a top 5 and a bottom 5, if you would. Number one. In the top 5, the first one I'm going to give you is KITT.
Okay.
The Night Industries 2000. I love Knight Rider. Grew up with it. David Hasselhoff reminds me of my father.
I think say of yourself. Like, get the hell out.
Not of myself, of my father. Not so much in attitude or anything like that, but just the way he looks. My dad had very similar hair with the curly hair.
Okay.
Before my dad grew a mustache, he looked a lot like David Hasselhoff. I love the Knight Rider series. Even some of the cheesier, newer ones were okay. There's been a couple of shoot-offs as well.
Well, there was a new one a year or two ago where it was a Shelby instead of a Trans Am.
Yeah, it was a Shelby instead of a Trans Am. I love Mustangs. I know you do too. As we're sitting actually next to the Mustang wall of Hot Wheels. How many do you have? Like 10,000? No, not quite that.
No, there's about 225 Mustangs.
Yeah, 225 Hot Wheel Mustangs. Just Mustangs. I love the Shelby. I love Mustangs in general. So I liked it. I thought it was a little bit cheesy with the CG. Whereas KITT, again, back in the 80s was all practical effects.
Right.
Even when he went into Turbo Pursuit mode, in the one in the newer one, the car did a complete transformation and panels were coming out and all kinds of weird shit. There's a really cheesy offshoot movie or offshoot series. I don't remember what it was called. I want to say it was like Knight Rider 2000 or something to that effect, where there were multiple vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
It felt more like the TV show Mask, which we both love.
Right.
From the 80s, a really cheesy cartoon, but it was awesome. I liked it. I liked the interaction between KITT and Michael. It was just, there was something cool about a badass car that could do all kinds of cool shit.
Yeah.
The whole notion of AI in a car.
Yeah. I think one of the coolest features I thought was the auto tint windows.
The auto tint windows.
That's kind of cool.
That I liked a lot of it. The auto driving, the turbo pursuit mode, the turbo boost, the spiky traction, and it seemed kind of almost like it was very James Bondish in the field that, he had the submarine car, but it kind of, it took the James Bond concept where, if you notice, and I know it's based on the movie and the plot of the movie, he's always given a car or gadgets that fit the exact situation that he's going to be in.
Right.
Like there's, I recall specifically talking about the tire spikes, is that there was one episode of Knight Rider where he's chasing these guys out in the dirt, in the sand, and they're on motorcycles or a big 4-wheel drive truck or something like that, and KITT can't get up this hill. He can't chase them any longer. He gets stuck. Well, then miraculously, Bonnie installs tire spikes into KITT.
Just on a whim.
And now he can chase him. So,
all right.
That's I'm putting it at number 1. It's not necessarily my favorite. Second is going to be Airwolf.
Okay.
Same era.
Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to predict that out of our top 10, or you didn't rank yours, but out of our top 10, I'm going to say that we have 4 that are on the list, but won't be in the same order.
Okay.
I'm going 4.
4. Okay. We'll see. Airwolf, again, same generation, or same era of TV show. Basically, in my opinion, Airwolf was the air equivalent of Knight Rider. A little bit less AI, but it was still this super modified, super high-tech helicopter that just looked badass. The sound effects were badass.
Oh, yeah.
The intro music, everything he had, it was just good. Can't go wrong with that. Number 3, again, I'm not ranking them. I'm just giving them in order that I wrote them. It's Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
It's not the fast. Well, technically, it is the fastest ship in the galaxy, but it's not the prettiest. It's not the best at any one thing, but it's so unique in that universe.
Right.
It's got, and again, I'm talking episode 4, 5, and 6, because like in I believe it's episode 2, you have Slave 1, a couple of the weirder ships, but where CGI was a lot better, and they just did them in CGI. Whereas in episode 4, 5, and 6, those are practical effects.
Right.
It looks unique. It's it's just it's a good all around. In my opinion. The next one for me is Ecto 1 from Ghostbusters.
Okay.
They took pretty much a hearse and turned it into a pretty cool looking.
Well, the hearse or an ambulance?
Oh, it might have been an ambulance, not a hearse. I think you're right.
Well, either way.
Either way, it has the same look. But and again, in the movies, Ghostbusters 1 and 2, we don't see them really use it. I know in some of the cartoons there was a proton pack, like a souped up proton pack on top. But it's like all the flashing lights and just the look of it was pretty gangster. So next one for me is Thunderhawk from Mask.
Right.
Matt Tracker and his what's it, a Chevy Camaro Chevy Camaro with the gold wing doors that flies around. I mean, any car that and I wanted to put Mask as a whole.
You asked me about that.
I did, and actually, I violated that on a farther down on my list because I couldn't pick one. But I liked all of the cars in Mask. Some of them were kind of cheesy and very task specific. But the Thunderhawk, you got to go with the main guy, the boss, the leader,
right?
And any cars that turned into airplanes are pretty badass. Next one for me is the Tumbler from Batman. The Batmobile and the newest.
The Tumbler.
It's basically the Batmobile from the newer movies.
Oh, okay, right.
They refer to it as the Tumbler, not as the Batmobile. It's pretty much a tank. It's an urban tank. We see a lot of the different things it can do, with the big ass cannons and, being able to launch missiles. It looks cool. Next is the DeLorean. DeLoreans, in my opinion, not at the time, but nowadays are pretty vintage. And I've always liked the way they looked.
You mean the car or the time machine?
I'm saying the time machine.
Okay.
Because we're doing specifically, but
that's why I was asking.
Okay, yeah, we're talking about TVs and movies, not just vehicles. But the DeLorean, the base DeLorean, without all the crap on it, I like. I like that steel look. I like gold wing doors. It's kind of cheesy, but it's cool. You throw the whole Back to the Future thing into it, who doesn't want a time machine?
Right.
Like, I would totally go back 20 years and put some money on the Cubbies, and be, Biff Tannen at this point. So that's my next one. There's a TV show I don't think you're very familiar with. It's called Exo Squad. It's basically, it was a cartoon in the 80s, much in the Mask era or maybe shortly thereafter.
Yeah, you sent me that ad from Craigslist.
Yeah. They're basically guys.
eBay.
I think it was eBay. It's a cartoon set in the future, set in space. They wear basically the mech suits, mech warrior type suits. Okay. Not as big as like you would say, as you would think of like in Mech Warrior or something, but they're very Exo Squad. It's exoskeleton suits.
Okay.
They have various ones. I didn't really pick one specifically, They basically fly around and shoot shit with rockets and lasers and crap.
So their suits is your...
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
They're pretty much... You climb up into it and you fly around and it's...
I guess that qualifies.
It's a vehicle.
Yeah.
That's why I specified vehicle.
Yeah, but then it's also all of them, not just one particular.
Yeah, that's true. Next one is the G.I. Joe Killer Whale.
The Hovercraft.
The Hovercraft. I love hovercrafts. I don't know why. I think they're pretty badass. And who doesn't want a hovercraft that can go pretty much anywhere and have 6 Gatling guns and 2 rocket pods on it? I happen to like that one. And last but not least, and again in no particular order, Voltron. It's who doesn't want a giant robot?
But he is a robot, though.
But he's controlled by people. Voltron is not. You have the 5 guys who fly each of the 5 lions.
Okay.
They form together into Voltron, and it is controlled by them.
Okay.
He's not a robot. He's a robot from the sense that he's a mechanical humanoid form.
But he's not autonomous.
Okay. It's just like the Power Rangers. It's basically Power Rangers is the modern age.
I am Voltron ignorant. I'll take your word for it.
No, he is controlled by the 5 guys that are controlling the lions.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
That's my list.
All right. On my list, I did rank mine.
Okay.
Some arbitrarily, some based on, bullcrap criteria. But number 10, I have the TV Batmobile from the 60s. Just thought that was just a kick-ass car.
That is.
And they did a pretty good job of translating it from a comic book to the TV show. I mean, the car looked like it rolled off comic book pages.
Oh, absolutely. That whole show did. They did awesome.
Yeah, and it was a Ford, so...
There you go.
Sticking with that theme, number 9, I have Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh, that would definitely be my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Shelby GT500.
You can't go wrong there.
Okay,
sexy.
Number 8, little obscure, not Exo Squad obscure, but not, shoved down your throat.
Not mainstream.
Firefox.
The Charles Bronson? No, is it Charles Bronson?
Clint Eastwood.
MiG basically equivalent, right?
Well, the MiG-31 that Clint Eastwood was sent over to steal.
Yeah.
That was, completely invisible to radar, could fly faster than anything else in the world, and you fired weapons with your thoughts.
Yep. That was I've seen that movie, and that's a good one. That's not too obscure, but...
Well, yeah, but it's not, right at the forefront of, everything else.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Well, that, and I remember back in the day, it was, one of those Cold War thrillers like, Red Dawn.
Oh, absolutely.
Great film, but also scared the crap out of you.
Yep.
So the fact that maybe the Russians had something like this, that was kind of scary back then.
Absolutely.
Okay, number 7, Blue Thunder.
The helicopter.
Yeah, the police helicopter.
The police helicopter, the badass. Much on the Airwolf style badassery.
Yeah, only this was, police helicopter, used for good and all that, and then also for voyeurism, because they whisper mode and
like to spy on ladies doing their dirty things.
Yeah. Number 6, I have the dropship from Aliens.
Oh, one-way ticket to hell going down?
Yeah, that ship was awesome. It was also like a cross between like a cargo helicopter, but also like a OV-10 Bronco / Huey Cobra type. Yeah. It was just
like
awesome.
A badass gunship.
Yeah.
When they're once they get into the atmosphere and it unfolds and there's 1,700 rockets staring at you. Yeah, you're like, oh damn, that just went from a dropship to. Yeah. It's gonna fuck shit up.
Yeah, and it just looked badass.
I do wish they would have had more of that in action.
Yeah. And then number 5, again, right number 5 was the DeLorean time machine.
Okay.
Now, a time machine should be number 1, but the criteria I use is that I'll never have one. Number 5.
So wait, is that why the GT500 is so low? Because you'll never have one.
So basically, I'll probably have a DeLorean time machine before I have a Shelby.
Before you have a GT500.
Okay, number 4, I went with the Cobra Rattler from G.I. Joe.
Which one's the Rattler?
It was the Cobra's main fighter is like the A-10.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it had the vertical takeoff abilities, the wings tilted, so it's kind of like a Harrier / A-10.
Yeah. If an A-10 and a Harrier got naked,
exactly.
Yeah,
the Rattler would have been born.
Yeah, I love the A-10 and I love the Harrier.
Yeah, so I went number 4 for that.
Okay.
Number 3, the X-Wing fighter.
Okay. You went X-Wing. I wanted to throw Star Wars in there, but I didn't want to have too much.
Yeah, and again, basically, I had 9 that I nailed down, and I needed number 10, so I threw in the X-Wing fighter.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it blew up the Death Star.
It did.
So
it's badass looking with the X.
Exactly.
The wings locking out. And
number 2, I went with the Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
So we only ended up 2 in our list so far.
Yes.
And I put it number 2. It's a fantastic ship, but it's always broken.
It is always broken. It's
someone's always being fixed on it.
Something's always being fixed. I agree. It's one of the. It's like that.
The Volkswagen Beetle of the Star Wars universe.
I love Volkswagen Beetles too. My first car was a '67 VW Bug, and I loved it to death. But you're always working on something.
Yeah, so it was number 1 if it was more mechanically sound, I guess.
Okay.
And number 1, I went with Airwolf.
All right. So we had 3.
Yeah, we had 3. And Airwolf is, for me, is number 1 with a bullet. I just love Airwolf. It is the coolest thing out there. And it was growing up, and it's on Netflix now, and I started watching the series over again.
And you know what? Other than the video quality itself, it still holds up.
It holds up.
It holds up
does.
pretty good. Knight Rider, not so much.
No, and most of the shows growing up that I just loved, like, they were just fantastic, like the A-Team.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, that show was amazing. Yeah, they had the 4 Soldiers of Fortune going around saving the day, triumphing over evil and what have you. But watching the show today, it's retarded.
Yeah,
it really is.
And I've tried to watch a couple of Knight Rider seasons or episodes, and it just doesn't hold up. The whole 80s man horror Michael Knight thing just doesn't do it for me at this point. Whereas watching it as a kid, I thought he was the man. He was, the man among men.
Mm-hmm.
But Airwolf still holds up. I mean, it's very, and even some of the plot points with various terrorist groups here and there, it still holds up pretty well, even at 20, 30 years later.
Yeah,
so.
it does. And I had a few honorable mentions.
Okay.
First one was Kit.
Okay, so we'll go for.
Yeah, Kit was kind of hovering at number 11.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go Knight Rider, but and then another one just because it's been done to death is General Lee.
See, I like the car. You can't go wrong with the car. So I guess I don't have much.
And all it is the car.
Yeah, it's basically a car with a paint job that's recognizable.
Exactly.
So,
but again, it's iconic because I remember watching the new episodes.
Yeah. Well, and especially with all the politically correct crap with the flag and whatnot.
That's not what's on my list.
No, I'm just I'm pointing that out.
Yeah, yeah.
It makes it, in my opinion, it wouldn't have been even a mention for me because it's the General Lee. But now it's like, okay, you guys are making a bigger deal out of something than it really should be.
Exactly.
Because that car has been in existence for 30 years. Nobody had a problem with it.
No, and now
all of a sudden it's the symbol of racism.
Yeah, now Warner Brothers is pulling all the memorabilia.
Well, in fact, there was somebody was basically going to paint somebody has in their possession one of the original General Lees from the TV show.
Okay.
And they were going to paint over the flag and basically desecrate the memorabilia from the show. Somebody came in and bought it from them. Spent like a ridiculous amount of money and bought it for him just for the sole purpose of preserving it.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous, but it's a good car. I mean, it jumped and had it did some incredible jumps that would have bottomed out the shit out of that suspension, but
they went through quite a few of those cars.
Oh yeah, they did, and it had a cool paint job and it had a kick-ass horn.
Yeah.
So
my last one I had on my one that didn't make the list but could have made the list for me was the Family Truckster from National Lampoon's Vacation.
The green with the wood paneling.
It wasn't green; it was metallic pea. Was the color. Metallic
pea green.
Metallic pea.
See, the funny thing is my buddy growing up in high school, Carl. He had I had a '67 VW Bug, so his was a '68 Nova in that color, and it was God, that's such an ugly color. But it is a good-looking car. Retro.
Well, sure.
I would totally drive one right now and embarrass the shit out of my kids.
Yeah. So that'll just about do it for today. And I thank you for listening. And this will probably be our last one before episode 7 comes out. Mm-hmm. And we'll try to get one more in before Christmas. And if not, we'll see you after the first of the year. And I'm Sean.
I'm Chris.
And we're signing off.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
The Force will be with you, always.